Well, the Supreme Court agreeing to take up President Trump's appeal of the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to remove him from the GOP primary ballot, alleging he violated the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause. The High Court is set to hear arguments next month. We welcome now Caroline Fredrickson. She is a distinguished visiting professor at Georgetown Law and former president of the American Constitution Society. Caroline, thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you. Yeah, wonderful to have you this morning. As you well know, legal experts say there are several ways the justices could reverse this decision without weighing in directly on the former president's conduct here. Many do believe the ruling will ultimately fall in favor of him being on the ballot. What do you see as the ultimate outcome in this case?
Well, I mean, there are a couple paths. I mean, obviously, they could disagree with the reasoning of the Colorado Supreme Court and the Secretary of State in Maine, and on a couple points. One is the question of whether or not the aiding and abetting insurrection or participating in insurrection is something that Donald Trump did. So that's a question. Both of those institutions, the court and the Secretary of State, looked at the record that had been so elaborately laid out by the January 6th committee and determined that, in fact, Donald Trump was engaging in insurrection and certainly was aiding and comforting insurrectionists. But beyond that, there's also the question of whether the actual terms of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, apply to a former president. The question is whether or not the term officer of the United States applies to the president. And I think that's pretty clear. Most people, most constitutional law experts believe that it does. So that leaves them, I think, the last possible out for them is to suggest that I think they could say that because these are determinations regarding the primary ballot, they will defer to the states because our Constitution does give a great amount of power to the states to structure their elections. But then they will reserve the question about the general election for later. And so, you know, there are a few off-ramps for them. That last one is not exactly an off-ramp, but it's more of a kick the can down the road. And the last idea, I think that is perhaps the most legitimate here, is to actually take the 14th Amendment at its word, that is, follow the text, which this is a court that claims to do so. Suggests that the court and the Secretary of State rightly excluded Donald Trump from the ballot. But by the very terms of the 14th Amendment, Congress can remove that bar to Donald Trump being on the ballot. And therefore, if there's any way to go about doing this, they should kick it over to Congress to make that decision.
So we have about a minute left, but as you outline, the interpretation of the 14th Amendment, that is what is under the microscope here. And there are generally two opposing arguments, one being the former president has not been charged or convicted of insurrection, the other side stating that his actions violated the 14th Amendment and therefore disqualify his candidacy. Given the facts and your experience, what do you believe is the appropriate ruling and why?
Well, I don't think the idea of him not being convicted or charged with insurrection as a crime is actually relevant at all to the question of whether the 14th Amendment applies. Remember, we're talking about two very different things. One is a crime for which one would serve time in prison, and you know, certainly quite a large number of people who took place in the January 6th insurrection are now in prison. However, this is about a civil issue and about a democracy issue. That is, who should be able to run for the highest office in the land. And so it doesn't require a criminal conviction. It doesn't even require a criminal complaint. But it does require that there is a finding that somebody had participated in insurrection or aided and comforted. And we have that finding. The January 6th committee is definitive on that, and they were thorough and provided very, very strong evidence of Donald Trump's role in January 6th.
Understood. And I think the counter to that is let the voters decide. But we will certainly see how this plays out, and always appreciate you weighing in. Caroline Fredrickson, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.